Hello, fellow procrastinators of the world. It's me. I'm back. And I'm surprised about it too. First of all, I would like to show you guys something. Hold on. 1 second. It's so big. Well, it's a big boy, that's for sure. This is a 50 by 100 centimeter canvas that I've had since 2016, which was 7 years ago. Oh my god, that was such a long time ago. Back then, I saw that it was on sale and I was like, hey, I might as well buy it. But I never really worked on it because the aspect ratio is really awkward for portraits, and at the same time, I'm not really interested in panoramas. Also, at the time, I wasn't really confident in my oil painting skills, and I thought that if I make a mistake, that would just be a waste of canvas, so I was too scared to commit. Flash forward to 2020, when the Heaven Official's Blessing Manhwa dropped, and we also Star Ember's beautiful iteration of Watching's painting for Xie Lian. I looked at that painting and I was like, hey, I kind of want that in my house. Which leads us to 2023. When we can finally work on this project. Today is April 1st and our university has a 2-week break, so I'm going to try to finish this painting within 2 weeks. Or less than 2 weeks because I think I'm supposed to have my wisdom tooth extraction next week. And if I fail, then I'll just delete this footage and pretend that this never happened. I already took the canvas out of its plastic covering, so that just means that I have to commit to it now, or else Watchang will kill me in my sleep. With that being said, we should go find ourselves a Xie Lian reference so I can get started on the sketch. And where will I find the Xie Lian reference, you may ask? Well, that's easy. I just have to go to an anime convention. Oh my god, hello. We're currently at SM Mall of Asia. I'm all alone because my friends won't be arriving until like 2 p.m. and the rest of my friends are inside because they have booths and stuff. So we're here to find the Xie Lian. I hope we find one. I haven't been here since 2019, so this is going to be a very interesting experience. Back in 2019, we didn't have an IKEA here. IKEA? IKEA. It's 37 degrees in Pasay right now, so... No, wait, no. It's 32 degrees, but it feels like 37 degrees. So if you want to feel like you're being hugged by an actual human being, just go to Pasay. Before looking for a crown print Xie Lian, I'm gonna go find my friends first, since I have time to kill. And then after that, I'm gonna spend some money on overpriced lunch. Because everything here is overpriced, you know? It's a bougie mall. And my lunch was overpriced. This very small serving of potato salad cost me 125 pesos. After looking around for a bit, I remembered that, oh right, I'm supposed to look for a reference. And I did just that. First of all, we need to find a Xie Lian. There's one right there. Okay. It was totally not scripted. Yep. It was totally a coincidence that I found the exact cosplayer that I've been looking for. This was totally not planned beforehand. Anyway, we took a bunch of photos, and we did so until the marshals kicked us out because apparently we're not supposed to take photos here.
Hi, where can people find you?
Hi, my name is AllenCoser, and you can find me here sometimes in Metro Manila, in Cavite for cosplay events and photo shoots.
Ano social media mo?
Social media, just AllenCoser. Twitter, Facebook, IG, Gang, I have Gang account, Coffee, AllenCoser. Just search AllenCoser.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Go follow them, they're sweet. After that, I went home and almost became a victim to the CDS or the cat distribution system, and then I finally started to work on the actual piece. That is, a digital version of it. Are you bummed out that it took 5 minutes to get to the actual drawing? Well, sorry! Anyway, I drew the thing on Clip Studio Paint and then I imported it onto Photoshop because I like coloring on Photoshop. What can you do about it? I'm not doing anything too rendered. I'm just trying to see how my colors look in relation to one another because I really suck at acrylic painting and I'm trying to avoid making as many mistakes as possible. And how do I do that? Well,
I strategize. That is, if you can call this sort of procrastination strategizing anyway. Speaking of acrylic paints, we need to get some. Initially, I had high ambitions for this painting. I was like, oh, I'm gonna buy artist grade paints. But then I saw how expensive they are, so I went for their cheaper alternatives instead.
Do I need black? Let's just get black. Turquoise. No, we don't have turquoise. Fine, let's get green.
And of course, it won't be a Hana video if there aren't any gratuitous shots of food. I wasn't kidding. When I redrew Xie Lian on the canvas, I was blown away by how big he actually was in real life. But I got to work. Speaking of which, you're probably wondering why I decided to sketch Xie Lian the way I did. Well, I'm gonna explain. First of all, I obviously took some elements from Star Ember's art, but I also took some elements from the Xie Lian figure, namely the flower on the bottom and the much more jumpy fabric, if that makes sense. Also, I chose this pose because I wanted to show the details on the front of his robes. I did an underpainting by firstly staining the canvas with a burnt sienna mixture so that it's not too bright on the eyes and I wouldn't damage my retinas while I work, and by diluting my acrylic paint so that it would look a bit more like watercolor. Again, nothing too rendered, just something to establish my values before I go in with color. One of the tips that my techniques professor taught when it comes to acrylic painting is to firstly line the important parts of the face with a dark color before going in with the other colors, because acrylic is an opaque paint. So if you paint over the pencil sketch, then you wouldn't be able to see your guidelines anymore. By the way, this is the thing about acrylic paints. They dry so damn fast. Like, you mix a bit of color and then you put that color on the canvas, and when you go back to the palette, that color has already dried, so you need to remix that color. On one hand, it makes for this beautiful like brush strokey art style. It's very painterly, but on the other hand, you can't blend anything. I don't know if other acrylic painters do this, but personally, when I need to take a break or if I just need to stop painting, I scoop some of the paint on the palette back into the tubes to preserve them, because otherwise they would just dry on the palette and it would just be a waste of paint. Am I the only one who does that? Anyway, back to the painting. I made sure that Xie Lian's lips were extra juicy, and then I proceeded to color his robes. Thanks to the burnt sienna stain that I did a while ago, I was able to see my whites more clearly. That's one advantage of painting from a midtone. And here's a palette update. It's a mess, like my mental state. I hate drawing clothes, and I hate painting with acrylics. But for some reason, I like painting clothes with acrylics. It's probably because it's easier to render folds with acrylics because you can just layer paint. Also, someone on Twitter mentioned that it's probably because two negatives make a positive. They're probably right. I did my best to accurately portray the floatiness of the fabric. After that, hands. Like any weeb artist who grew up practicing anatomy on the likes of low-budget shoujo anime, I hate drawing hands. The hands alone took me an hour. In fact, I think they took longer than Xie Lian's mask and face combined. They still suck after I'm through with them, but I guess I'll just tell people to social distance from the canvas so they won't notice how much I messed up. Neri, if you're watching this, I'm so sorry for ruining your hands. I just layered a bunch of paint and hoped and prayed that my fingers looked like fingers. Now that Xie Lian has hands, he can finally hold a sword. So I gave him one. What's not as straightforward was his hanfu, that is, the bottom part. I had to do hanfu surgery. I realized that I drew the bottom of his hanfu incorrectly at first, so I went ahead and rectified that. I did so by painting on the existing underpainting with more burnt sienna. I was too lazy to remix my unsaturated stain from earlier, so I just got some paint straight from the tube and it looks so saturated and so bright, but well, it did the job. Does it hurt your eyes? Same. At least this surgery did not involve someone getting stabbed 100 times. I did complain a lot though. I mean, I guess. Oh my god. I hate you. I also said something like, well, that was cringe, wasn't it? But that was genuinely how I felt at the time. I was really frustrated, even though, well, looking back at it now, it wasn't that bad. After that somewhat successful surgery, I then proceeded to color the white parts of his hanfu. Growing up, I learned that one way to make something white look interesting is to just incorporate as many colors onto it as possible. White is very reflective, so it should reflect a lot of the colors around it. My cousin quickly stopped by to give me my halo-halo. Thank you, cousin. And after that, I can finally paint the flower. I was looking forward to this. By the way, it's not really obvious from this camera angle, but in real life, I could remember thinking that this part looked like one of those monsters from The Last of Us, the mushroom guys. The camera can only record at 20-minute intervals, so I made sure that my camera battery was extra full for this, so I could capture the process in its entirety. I forgot to mention, if there's anyone in the audience who's sensitive to flashing lights, you might want to turn away now because unfortunately, acrylics are very shiny when you first lay it on the canvas. And I have to change my light source a lot so I'd be able to see what I was painting. And when I sped up the video, it just looks like there are flashing lights everywhere. Flashing lights aside, I think this footage came out great. It's so satisfying to watch how a bunch of brushstrokes come together to create one entire image. Because when you're busy at work, I think you're more focused on laying down the colors where they're supposed to be rather than how the general form looks. Not gonna lie, right now it's looking like one of those Victorian tablecloths like every Asian mother has in their closet. But, well, we have to make do. I mean, hey, at least it looks like a flower. Alright. Oops. Is he overexposed? I'm sorry about that. Good morning. It is now the 9th of April. It's a Sunday. And that means that we've been working on this painting for over a week now. And we've done pretty good for ourselves. We've done a lot. So good job, good job, good job. By the way, sorry for my ratty pajamas. I just got out of bed. I've done nothing this past week but eat a lot, sleep a lot, and paint a lot. It was also my cousin's 18th birthday yesterday, so happy birthday, Obi, if you're watching this. The only things left for this painting are, well, most obviously the background, which I'm not looking forward to doing because I'm not looking forward to working with a medium that dries faster than I sleep at night whenever I have deadlines the following day. I'm going to have to mix a bunch of paints now. I'm not looking forward to that. Also, we need to do his hanfu, like the gold details. There are a lot. I'm also not looking forward to doing those. His scarves, that would be fun. And finally, the moon. For the moon, I'm not sure if I want to stick to my original plan of just keeping it white and bright because right now, this composition is looking very bottom heavy and I blame this peony for that because a lot of visual interest has been put underneath Xie Lian's feet. Well, I have a solution to that. Hold on. So I bought this tube of acrylic paint. It's gold and it cost me $20. That's right. This tube of gold paint alone cost me $20. When I say art materials are expensive, I'm not even kidding. By making the moon very shiny and very gold, I hope that attracts the human eye to look at Xie Lian's face instead because we are all magpies with feelings and better eyesight. Also, I hope I get to finish everything before my wisdom tooth extraction this coming week because I don't think I'd be able to function all that well while in a lot of pain. We'll see. Furthermore, I have a lot of schoolwork to do this week because reading break is coming to an end and I have a lot to do. Wish me luck. I'm going to have to suffer now. Bye. And suffer I did. Remember how I said my camera can only record at 20 minutes per recording? Well, let me tell you, this shot of me mixing paint took up one entire footage. That's 20 minutes of me just mixing paint, all for a gradient. I tried to be smart. I was like, hey, since I'm going to be doing a gradient and acrylics dry really quick on a palette, I should probably mix my colors in glasses. And that's what I did. However, even though I went through all the trouble, I still had difficulty trying to get the gradient really smooth. And I was so frustrated that I had to stand up and angle the canvas away from the camera. I didn't know what I was thinking at the time. It was just, you guys are not gonna look at me struggle right now because this is a personal issue. Maybe if I tried gradienting. Gradienting? Is that a word? Maybe if I tried painting a gradient on a blank canvas, it would be easier. But since we already have Xie Lian on the foreground, it was a bit harder for me. Bear in mind that this was the 9th of April and I forgot that the 10th of April was supposed to be a holiday and I was thinking that I was going to have my tooth extraction the following day. So in this footage, I'm just really a big ball of anxiety. I was trying to get as much finished as possible and here I am just struggling to paint Xie Lian's scarves. Thank God it all worked out. You've heard me complain about acrylic paints a lot. Well, here are my justifications as to why I'm using them right now. Number 1, they dry fast, I'm in a hurry, and I need the paint to hurry. Drying. Grammar, English. Number 2, they're resilient, they behave like plastic when dry, and I'm going to bring this painting outside to an event so it better survive. And number 3, it's cheaper. If I'm using oils, I'm going to have to buy linseed oil, turpentine, mineral oils, all that stuff. And finally, we can paint the gold details. I'm going to flash my basic recipe for gold on the screen. Are you getting this? Are you getting this? Good. This is not how you paint gold. More professional artists probably know a better way, but for me personally, I just paint burnt sienna with some yellow and black and then add whites at random intervals. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Back to the painting. This was originally why I really wanted an actual cosplayer to pose as a reference for this painting. There's just so many intricate details on Xie Lian's hand food that if it weren't for a live reference, I wouldn't be able to capture them all faithfully on canvas. For this version of Xie Lian's cosplay, at least, there's surprisingly a huge amount of butterfly details on the hand food. Man. So I tried to cover up my stupidity and went on ahead to paint his headpiece. I saved the more intricate hairpins for last because they would just get covered up by the gold paint. So I thought I'd be not stupid about it. Excuse me. Hello, we are back. One can say that this is already a sort of finished piece. In fact, I can bring it to the event as it is right now, but I still haven't drawn the plum blossoms yet, but I'll do that later. I'm currently having a problem with this piece. So you see, remember how I spent several hours doing this gradient? Well, I'm thinking of getting rid of it. That's because in design, there's this thing called hierarchy. Other people call it emphasis. I think it's the same thing. I like to think it's the same thing. What I'm basically saying is that I want people to look at Xie Lian's face and the moon, but instead, their eyes are drawn towards the flower. Why is that? That's because the eyes are very attracted to either light-colored things, red-colored things, or shiny things. And this part of the piece is not only very light-colored, it is also a shade of red. So what I'm thinking right now is that Well, I can simply just color this part of the background flat black and hope that that would fix my problem. Did I waste a lot of paint yesterday? Yeah, I guess I kinda did. But at the same time, by doing the gradient, I found out that it's not going to work. So in a way, it's not that much of a waste. What I forgot to mention in that segment was not only were the color and the details of the peony very attention grabbing, the peony was further emphasized by the lighter and more saturated colors towards the bottom, hence why the flower draws the eyes downwards. At first, I was very delusional. I thought I could get to keep some of my hard work, but no. I figured out eventually that I needed to commit. I needed to cover every single light part of that painting with a dark blue. I committed so hard, in fact, that I stood up. I legit stood up. I abandoned my chair because I thought that would help me paint better. Also, I took a photo of my progress to send to my friend. Anyway, we're probably at the home stretch, you guys. Using the same shade of blue that I used on the background, I attempted to darken the flower. My goal wasn't to do a chiaroscuro per se, but more like, I don't know, just upping the contrast in general. I made sure that the blue that I was using was somewhat diluted so it wouldn't cover up the flower too much. At first, I was a gremlin and buffed out the edges with my fingers. That's why I needed to look at my hand every single time because I needed to pick a finger that was still clean. I also incorporated the same shade of blue into the white of his robes because, like I said before, white is a somewhat reflective color. It doesn't look much on screen, but in real life, I swear it made a world of difference. Finally, I painted his plum blossoms and the hairpins on his headpiece. I ditched my plan to paint the gold dots because it didn't work out. And we are done! Ideally, I'd play the OST for the grand reveal, but I didn't want to get a copyright strike, so... Wachang, are you proud of me yet?